Hello everyone, back at it again, but I'm doing something a little different today. I'm hiking with a kayak. So job number one is to find some water, and if I don't take the wrong trail, should be about 5 minutes hike in, which is about 1/4 of a mile, give or take. So I could do this with a boat cart. There are some portions that my little kayak cart wouldn't do well, going over some rocks, a couple little like stream bridges that I have to cross over. So I'm carrying it. I have seen on this trail someone with a canoe, and they had this homemade boat cart with giant oversized wheels, and that seemed to be doing pretty well on this trail. But my kayak weighs about 40 pounds, and I tried to pack light with my fishing gear. I only brought one rod, one lure, and a few little miscellaneous essentials like hemostats or forceps, fish towel. Gotta have my net. What else? My Swiss Army knife. Yeah, a few little odds and ends like that. But in general, I'm packing very light. So if I lose my lure in a tree or I get cut off by a pickerel, I'm going home. The lure I decided to bring is a little mini spinnerbait. It's a Z-Man Finesse double willow spinnerbait. And that little thing does pretty well for me. It's not the most weedless spinnerbait, but the fish seem to really like it. I use a 3-inch Z-Man Slim Swims trailer on it, and I've had them chew the skirt right off the thing. I've replaced the skirt a few times. The first one I had, I fished it with line that was too strong, and I ended up breaking the wire. It's a pretty thin wire on the spinnerbait. So now I fish with lighter line, and I use a mono leader to help protect that light wire the spinnerbait is made out of. And as long as I kind of baby it a little bit, it's fine. You just have to remember it's a finesse spinnerbait and not a heavy line spinnerbait, and then there's no problems. And you don't have to remember all the gear I'm rattling off here. I'll list it all in the video description later. Sometimes you need to click the 3 dots to get to that, or click more depending on which device you're on. But all my videos, all the gear I'm fishing with is listed in the video description. I can see a little bit of water ahead, which is a good sign. After a while, the kayak gets a little heavy. So I dumped myself in, and yeah, it's I guess it's early October when this was filmed, and I'm kind of surprised at how much weed growth there still is. I thought with the spinnerbait I'd have more water to fish, and I should have probably brought 2 lures. I should have brought a buzzbait and a spinnerbait, or maybe a frog and a spinnerbait. But yeah, there's a lot of lily pads and a lot of weeds. And so early in the season you can fish a spinnerbait through the lily pads that are just coming up. But this time of year, I get hung up on all kinds of junk trying to do that. So I'm limited to fishing the lanes in between the weeds. And if I had brought another lure or another rod even, I'd have a little bit more water to fish. So as it is, yeah, see those stringy dollar pads? They stick to everything. And I was battling them the whole trip. So anyway, this is Well, it's basically a beaver pond. It's got a dam at one end, and it's stained water, but very shallow. I'd say most of it is less than 3 feet, and a lot of it is 2. So it's a very, very shallow pond, and the fish in it, there just isn't a lot of water. So the fish in it, I think, are a little bit smaller than maybe if a place that had 10 feet of water. If there's a really hard winter, I bet that this place gets hit periodically with fish kills, just because there's not a lot of water. If you get 3 feet of ice and a lot of the pond is 3 feet or less, there's just not a lot of places for the fish to go. Alright, I've hooked my first fish. This is a little pickerel. That's not what I'm after today, but that's okay. This pond has small bass, small pickerel, and some pretty good sized perch in it. There are a few good sized bass, but they were playing hard to get today. I've caught some better ones in the spring on a frog, and maybe if I had thought to bring the frog, I could have done a little better. But that's okay, there's always next trip. There's another fish, and that was one of the perch that are in here. Got the net for him because he's pretty good sized for a perch. And he ate that little spinnerbait. He had the whole thing in his mouth too. Yeah, he's not bad. Nice. So these ponds are great for a couple reasons. They usually have a lot of fish in them, these ponds in the woods. And the trees act like kind of a wind screen. So it's a pretty windy day today, but you wouldn't know it fishing in the woods. I mean, there's a little bit of a ripple on the pond, but for the most part, yeah, the wind's not a big factor, even in my little kayak. I actually would prefer a little bit more wind for that spinnerbait. So it's a good place to hide from the wind on a windy day. And another thing is, most people will not carry a boat a quarter mile through the woods. They just won't do it. And, I mean, there could be a lot of reasons for that, some good reasons. But usually when I come here, I have the whole pond to myself. So let's say it was, I don't know, July 4th weekend. And every boat ramp, every pond and lake with a boat ramp is absolutely choked with people. If you want to get away, didn't just catch some fish, any fish, you don't really care what size or what species. Little ponds like this in the woods are great because for the most part, you're going to have it all to yourself. I mean, there could be some people fishing on shore. There could be people walking around on trails and people walking dogs. But for the fish, I mean, I'm catching them one after another, and I could do this for hours. Now, a lot of them are little pickerel, which are not my favorite, especially if they try to bite me. But, yeah, if you just want to feel something tug on your line, these little ponds in the woods are great. And like I said, I only brought one lure today, and that's that little spinnerbait. And I thought that might be all I needed. And it worked out okay. But like I said, if I had to do it again, I'd probably bring another lure, and maybe even another rod with a frog. That pickerel took the bait kind of deep. He's not hooked badly. It's just too far down his throat for me to get at with the forceps. So I'm going to show you a little trick. I didn't bring my lip grippers, which are handy for toothy critters like pickerel and bluefish, pike, because I was trying to save weight. But one trick you can do is you can lip them. Now you don't want to lip them with your bare hand, so I wrap a fish towel around my thumb, And you want to get both the top and bottom of your thumb wrapped in that fish towel. And then you can lip them just like a bass. And they can't get you. Now that I've lipped that pickerel, I can see where I need to get the forceps down to and get that hook and get a clean release.
Let go of my fish rag.
He's got a hold of my fish towel right there, but there. Nice little pickerel.
That could be the right kind, maybe.
What I'm really after is the bass. And I think I got one here. Yep, that's a bass. Some of the little bass in here are pretty fat. I don't know what they're eating, but they're eating pretty well. That one wasn't even a really fat one. But you know, they might be eating young of the year perch or even little bass. They're cannibals. They could be eating frogs and salamanders. Seems like once they get, you know, over a foot or so, they can start to really fill out. Yeah, that one's a little bit fatter. He's almost as round as he is long. Nice and thick. He's short, though. Anyway, sometimes in the spring with a frog, I can do a little bit better on the size of fish here. I think the biggest one I've caught is about 3.5 pounds out of here, which is pretty respectable considering there really just isn't a lot of water in here. I mean, total water is lacking because it's just so shallow. That one's a little longer, but he's not fat. He got all that spinnerbait though. Yeah, he's all right for a little pond in the woods. That rod I'm fishing is a Daiwa Arid X, and it's very inexpensive, especially if you get it on sale. The only, I don't know, kind of thing you have to look out for is that they run about 1 power light. So the medium heavy fishes more like a medium, and the medium fishes more like a medium light. So the rod I'm fishing is a medium heavy, and I think it's a great spinnerbait rod because I want it to be just a little bit softer for that that finesse double willow spinnerbait, and it works out great. It'd also be a good rod for I don't know, fluke. Be all right with that. I kind of have my favorite fluke rod already. But, yeah, for a little heavier wire, might be all right. That fish ate it right at the boat almost. Yeah, you can do a lot with that that rod. You can fish whopper ploppers with it. All right, I've run across a lure stuck to an old tree stump. There's a bunch of stumps in here, I guess. Flooded an old forest once the dam was made. And mostly what I find attached to the stumps and trees that have fallen over are Senkos. Senkos and bobbers with shiner hooks. And I spotted some more Senkos over here. They could be dingers too, I'm not really sure, but soft plastic stick baits of various manufacturers. And earlier on this year, I think in the spring, unfortunately an owl got caught up in some old fishing line and ended up dying here. Must be a horrible way to go for an owl. But anyway, that's one of the reasons I try to pick up all this assorted fishing line and fishing debris, just so animals don't get wrapped up in it and end up dying, or yeah, look at all that stuff. Around me, it seems like most people will throw some kind of soft plastic stick bait or bobber with shiner when they're fishing for bass. I swear that's about 90% of most people's bass fishing tackle. So for me, I try to fish everything except those two things for bass. And I feel like just doing something a little different sometimes can help me. Taking a few casts, but I've spotted some bobbers along shore. I'm going to go scoop those up next. Stuck into another tree stump. I think I got 3 bobbers and then 3 hooks with the bobbers and 3 soft plastic stick baits and 3 hooks. And one of the hooks was rusted too far to be useful anymore, but the other 5 hooks I think I might be able to clean up a little bit, file them up so they're nice and sharp, and I don't know, I might use them for testing out breaking strength of fishing line or clearing out old hook eyes. Maybe 1 or 2 of them will be still good for fishing. But mostly I'm just trying to get it out of the water. Get all this fishing debris out of the water. I clip the hook into the bobber so it doesn't end up in my leg while I'm fishing around here. Just so everything's kind of nice and neat. One of these had a wire leader on it. I saved that too. I could use that for bluefish maybe, or pike later. Something with a lot of teeth. Yeah, by the end I had a whole bird's nest of fishing line to take out of here. So that's pretty good. Cleaning up the place as I'm fishing. So I had a good afternoon fishing out here. I think I end up picking up 1 more bobber on my way out as I'm feeling my way through the stumps and weeds. But it's a beautiful pond, nice and quiet. I went by another pond earlier in the day and it was a complete wind fest. You wouldn't know it being in the woods. So I'm going to make my way back to shore and then hike out with the kayak again. And I'll say a few more words about what to look for in a kayak that you could carry through the woods. So the main thing for a fishing kayak that you can carry through the woods is weight. Maybe I'll do another video on what makes a good fishing kayak. So this is Marvel 10, and I have an older version that was made by Native Watercraft. The new one is made by the parent company called Liquid Logic, and they're not really marketed as fishing boats anymore. They're marketed as recreational paddling boats, I think. The new one has a different seat design, which might be an improvement. I haven't actually tested the new one. But the old one has been great. I had to replace the seat brackets a few times, which isn't a big deal. But the main thing is the weight. So I couldn't do this with a 100-pound boat. I'd have to use a big boat cart to navigate this trail. And that just means it opens up a lot more options for me. I can go through almost anything and launch this kayak. I can go through the woods. I can go through some pretty gnarly stuff. And all I need is a little opening at the pond's edge to launch. I don't need a boat ramp. And the weight just makes all that stuff easier. It also makes transportation easier. This little kayak slides into the back of my truck. Put a flag on the end, strap it down, easy peasy, and I'm gone. Takes no time at all to slide the kayak in and out of my truck. And storage. I mean, people don't think about storage, but just whether you store it in a garage or a shed or whatever, all that stuff is super easy with a lightweight kayak. With a kayak that weighs 100+ pounds, yeah, I mean, you have to think about how you're going to do it. And it's not all the weight. I mean, a 14-foot kayak that's 100 pounds is just awkward to manage. No matter how you do it, it's just awkward. So a lightweight kayak is just a lot easier all around. Some people will put a kayak on the roof of their car if they don't have a truck. And that's a lot easier too with a lightweight kayak. So I just suggest if you're in the market for a fishing kayak, don't just look at the fishing kayaks, look at recreational kayaks too. And if you see one that you like and has a good seat and all that other stuff, you can easily add rod holders to a kayak like I've done with this boat, and suddenly it's a fishing kayak. So I wouldn't confine yourself to just looking at fishing kayaks, and especially pay attention to the weight. Okay, I'm going to wrap it up here. Thanks everybody for watching. I'll catch you on the next one. See ya!